And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and as always, my co-host Chris is alongside me. Here's our big episode to kick off the weekend. So hope you're tuning in here with a cup of coffee, an energy drink, juice, whatever you like as your morning beverage, because we are here to load out the slate and break down all these starts and sits for each single game here for each team. We won't be going through every single player. We'll be highlighting a couple here, but be sure to take a look at the images up on your screen to get the information that you're looking for if you should start or sit your player.
We're going the distance.
We're going for speed. Before we jump into it all, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button right underneath Chris so you get all the drops next week when we go through our waiver wire and we go through our Thursday night preview, and back again a week from today when we break down next weekend's Week 2 slate. That being said, let's get into it. We'll start off here with the Houston Texans. We have Dameon Pierce and Nico Collins as our two starts. I think, to me, that is the strongest two players there that are going to have fantasy appeal, I should say here. We expect the Texans offense to struggle a little bit coming out the gates. Rookie quarterback, young team. Nico's the veteran there. Dameon Pierce, the veteran on offense last year. They're going to be the two spearheading this team against a tough Washington Commanders defense. I don't expect a lot of points from this team. We have Tank Dell as a quick sleeper here as well because
you're playing the Ravens.
Oh, sorry, the Ravens. I don't know why I said Commanders. Ravens, tough Ravens defense, which is not what you want to see as a rookie quarterback for C.J. Stroud. We have Tank Dell as a sleeper. Both Chris and I believe he can be a weapon in this offense, and he's shifty enough to find himself in some open space and can make some big plays. But I'm playing him in the flex at best at all if you're really looking for a sleeper pick this weekend due to any injuries on your team. But you could be confident in Nico Collins in your flex position as well, and Dameon Pierce as a RB2, not an RB1 option for us here.
Yeah, I think another guy that I'm definitely keeping my eye on is going to be the usage of Devin Singletary in this game. So that's something to keep an eye on going forward. He was borderline sleeper for me, but I just couldn't do it this week. I'm just going to have him as a sit. But keep an eye on his usage this week.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of people that are borderline sleepers and borderline starts that we're having at sits because it is week 1. It is a wait and see. Like we would have had Thursday night, we would have had Jahmyr Gibbs as a sleeper, not a full start, so to speak, even though we put him on our list, I believe, as a starter. That's the type of situations we're looking at. We don't know what the usage is going to be like. If we're more confident about the usage, maybe you'll see when we talk about Charbonnet and Walker, we'll bump them up to a start there because we feel a little bit more confident in game script that it's going to happen. Right. Here, it's going to be a negative game script. Not sure how it's going to fold out. So
right.
Let's move on to their opponent. We're going to go into the Baltimore Ravens, who we have as big starts across the board, all except for Odell Beckham, who did appear up on the injury report this week. He's back off of it again with that ankle, but off on again injury. He'll be fine. Rashad Bateman as well, who has been, on the PUP list to start camp, then off the PUP list. Those two guys are off injured. We have them as sits. We have Zay Flowers as a start, dart throw at their young rookie to get some big play up opportunity here. We have Mark Andrews as a start, as you should in yours, but keep an eye on him because he is questionable. If he somehow does not make it onto the field this weekend, Isaiah likely is a sleeper for us already. However, he would be a start. He would be a start for us. Obviously, you're starting Lamar Jackson, especially where you drafted him, and you are starting J.K. Dobbins, the main running back there. Any thoughts on Gus Edwards, if you'd have him as a sleeper opportunity here?
It's kind of the same thing as Devin Singletary. I want to keep an eye on this game on his usage and how much they're going to put the workload on J.K. Dobbins, because I think Gus is a guy that's going to be valuable in this offense as well, especially if J.K. Dobbins did get banged up a little bit. Gus is a guy that can come in there right away and be an RB1.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's had a great history, too, coming in off the bench as well and putting up high numbers.
I'm just excited to see Joystick.
Yeah, Zay Flowers, I am too. He's going to be an exciting player to watch this year.
Yeah.
Actually, all the rookie receivers will be. I just think he's going to have the first knock at being the big playmaker for his team.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next matchup, and that's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Cleveland Browns. For us here, the Cincinnati Bengals are a offense that we love. I mean, they're a high-powered offense, and you've got some big-time players there. In fact, the fact that you have 2 receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds in fantasy drafts, you have a running back that's been drafted in the top 3 rounds as well. You know they have some high power there. Joe Burrow coming off the calf injury, he's ready to go. But that only makes me like Joe Mixon a little bit more. I love Joe Burrow. You're going to start him. You're going to start Jamar Chase. You're going to start T. Higgins. But Joe Mixon out there, I think, has an opportunity to get a little bit more workload week 1, just due to the fact that Joe Burrow's been out nursing that calf injury, and I don't think they want any re-aggravation at any point here.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a well-balanced offense this year. So I think Mixon is a guy that you do want to play week in and week out. So even though we know this offense is being a prolific passing offense because of the weapons that they have on the outside, they have a weapon in the backfield too, and they're going to use him. So the other guy here that we have as a sleeper is Irv Smith Jr. So I do like him in this game. I'm excited to see his potential in this offense as well, as being a potential number 3 passing option behind Higgins and Chase. I think Tyler Boyd is just going to be a sit until one of the other guys gets hurt. I think it's really hard to keep him as a starter or a sleeper.
It's hard to map out his usage until there's an injury. And when you see the injury, he actually has a great opportunity and does have some good output.
Right.
We're not starting this defense because the next team we're talking about here is the Cleveland Browns, and we like the Cleveland Browns offense this year, especially going into this first matchup.
Yeah, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a weaker defense than they were last year. And I think that this offensive line has always struggled to protect Joe Burrow. You've seen the numbers of the last 3 years where he's been the most sacked and hit quarterback in the league. And Myles Garrett's on the other side. And as long as they have that man on the other side and Zadarius Smith now, this is a defense that is potent. So in terms of the offensive players, Deshaun Watson's going to be a start. Nick Chubb's going to be a start. Amari Cooper's going to be a start. And Njoku is going to be a start. And then we have sleepers in both the other receivers with Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I do think that this offense is going to be a lot better. I think a lot of people are doubting Deshaun Watson. And again, Deshaun Watson had a full offseason with this team. He has more weapons around him now, weapons at all 3 wide receiver positions, a weapon at the tight end position, and the best pure running back in football behind him. This is going to be a really prolific offense, I think. And again, we don't need Deshaun Watson to be what Deshaun Watson was 4 years ago. We need Deshaun Watson to be like 80% of that. And this team is going to be really good.
Yeah, and the Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones as sleepers, I mean, we saw it towards the middle and end of last year. Peoples-Jones had an impact for this offense, even with Amari Cooper there, when and he had a rapport with Deshaun Watson when Watson came in. So I like Peoples-Jones there. It's just also there's all this hype with Elijah Moore and what he can do for this offense and how he's going to be coming out the backfield and the opportunities he's going to have on this offense as well, since there really isn't a true plug-and-play RB2 behind Nick Chubb, that they've found ways to get him the ball in different places and use his athleticism. So to me, it's still kind of wait and see for Peoples-Jones and Elijah Moore. I don't think anybody's quite in a pickle quite yet because there's no bye weeks or anything where you're going to need to flex these guys. But keep an eye on them because one of these guys after this week could end up popping up on our waiver wire chat that we drop Tuesday morning. And that is one of those opportunities where you want to go snag him and drop somebody else that has less opportunities on their offense.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be one of the top 3 highest scoring games of the week. I think it's going to be this, and I think it's going to be the Chargers and Miami.
Yep. So we'll move on to our next matchup. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Vikings. Buccaneers coming out with a new quarterback at the helm this year. A new starting running back, so to speak. So to us, we are quite unsure. They weren't very efficient and effective last year. I don't expect it to be that much better. The fact that you don't have Tom Brady at the helm anymore. You are going to be in an opportunity. You're going to be in an opportunity in a game, however, where it could be a shootout, or it's going to have to be a shootout with how weaponized that Vikings offense is. So Baker Mayfield may have to air some out and may have to throw the balls around. I like Rachaad White early and often. And I like Chris Godwin here. We both do. We have him as starts and K. Dotton as a sleeper. However, there is a chance. I know some of you have drafted Mike Evans as your wide receiver 2 or your flex position. If you have a better option at flex, I would trade Evans out and go with somebody else who's going to have better chances there and more opportunities. Let's just see what Baker can do with Evans in real game. I hate seeing all this footage from camp and practices of like, did you see that play with Evans and Baker? Did you see that connection and all this stuff? And to me, it's like, yeah, that's great. They're in half pads against no defense and soft coverage. Like, let me see game speed. Let me see what's going on. Let me see, is Baker going to be Baker like he was for LA when he came in there and won that game? Or is he going to be Baker like he was for Carolina at the beginning of the season last year?
I would say he's going to be like he was in Carolina. I think he's a game manager is what he is.
I agree.
And listen, I'm not knocking his talent. I'm not knocking him, but he's a game manager. He's not in the same realm as the elite throwers in this league. And with all the talks around Mike Evans being traded and the trade rumors swirling him, and he has till to today to have contract negotiations with Tampa Bay. I mean, I can't see them overusing him in this game. That's why he's a sit for me. Like, if they're planning on trading him or they're planning on moving on from him, they're not going to just go and throw 12 times to him.
Let's just say his player prop bet right now on sleeper picks is 3.5 receptions. That's low. I have the over on that because it's just Mike Evans. I feel like he's going to garner targets and opportunities. He's pretty effective at catching the ball. But I mean, that just tells you how even the betting world sees his chances going with the Buccaneers on Sunday.
Vegas just wants your money.
Always does. Well, speaking of the other team in being a shootout, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. We have starts almost across the board pretty much here, except for KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison. This offense, you could have started all these guys last year and been very happy as well. We do have Jordan Addison as a sleeper pick here. He's been playing a lot in 3 wide receiver sets, and he should see some opportunities to get in there with Justin Jefferson as well in 2 receiver sets. And he's obviously a very talented young route runner in this team. And they say he's not hyper athletic. He's not the fastest and everything, but he is a Keenan Allen slice and dice route runner out there. And I want to see what he's got. One, I have some stake in him in my fantasy teams, but I also think it makes this offense even more exciting because Adam Thielen just couldn't get the job done last year. And then when KJ Osborne stepped up, they were even more effective in games when you saw double coverage on Justin Jefferson, which is almost every play anyway. So I think this team could score a lot of points. And in an offense without Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison is still a start for us. But if you're thinking you're going to get the same output that Cook was giving you last year, I think you're going to be mistaken. And I think this team's going to need to throw the ball a little bit more this year.
Well, I think that's why we have the receivers as sleepers and sets, like the secondary guys outside Jefferson for this game, is because I do think they're going to have a lead in this game, and Madison is going to get some usage in this game. But season long, no, you're absolutely right. I think Madison is going to you're not going to get the kind of touches that Dalvin Cook is going to get. So you're going to start seeing these other receivers be more every week starts for us because the usage is just going to be much higher. And we'll see with this defense. I know we have the defense as a start this week. But
that's purely matchup, though. That's pure matchup.
Yeah.
I agree with Chris here. See what we got in this defense. It's worth a chance if you have them to play them, or if you've got say you picked up the Dolphins defense and they're in a tough matchup where it could be a shootout, or the Patriots against the Eagles, go grab the Vikings because the Buccaneers may have fall flat on their face. And to us, it may be high scoring on the Viking side, but not necessarily on the Buccaneers side. Create some turnovers there because the Vikings aren't the best defense out there. They showed it last year. They were in a lot of shootout games and come some close call wins during the season. And I expect that not to be the case week 1.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to our next matchup. You've got the Tennessee Titans versus the New Orleans Saints. Tennessee Titans here. This offense year after year is shouldered by one player, Derrick Henry. And that's not the quarterback on the team for those who are new to football. So we don't have our quarterback here in Ryan Tannehill as a starter at all. We have Henry as a starter. We actually have Tajay Spears as a sleeper. If anybody got a chance to watch him in the preseason and all the hype around him around camp, this guy is an effective runner, somebody who you can see do more on the field when Derrick Henry's off than he's had previous running backs behind him. And there's been a lot of talk out there and a lot of predictions that Derrick Henry's going to get less opportunities this year. They all think he's going to do the same or more with them on less opportunities, but less carries for him means somebody else is going to get out there and get the ball or catch the ball out the backfield. And Tajay Spears, I think, is going to reap those benefits.
Right. And so I do have him as a sleeper because I do think he's really efficient. And any running back in this offense right now, the way they ran the football in the preseason, the way they've run the football the last, I don't know, however long Derrick Henry's been there. We've seen guys come in, even when Derrick Henry's been hurt, that have been effective runners. And so I like the number 2 here. I think that if he does, that's why he's a sleeper, because if we do suspect that Derrick Henry's workload is going to be diminished a little bit, someone else is going to get touches, and that other person is going to be Tajay Spears, and he's going to reap the benefits of that.
Yeah. We also have D-Hop as a starter. I know a lot of people are either hot or cold with DeAndre Hopkins. He's either washed to them or he's one of the greatest of all time. And to me, I think he's good enough to get the job done.
Why can't he be both?
Yeah. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I don't expect it, what Adam Thielen did last year with, aging wise. I think he's going to be a little bit better than that. And I think he's going to be the person that Tannehill's going to want to go to early and often on this offense. I think it's going to be tough for Treylon Burks, who we have as a sit, to really break out this season with somebody like DeAndre Hopkins in front of him, although it does take some coverage away. But Chigakonkwo, we do have a sleeper because his athleticism can't be undermined. And at the same time, he could be also another big benefactor for Tannehill. But we're talking about a team that has not passed the ball often in games at all.
Right.
Now, Tannehill can do it. He's shown it. He's thrown for 4,000 yards in his career before. However, he did that when he was in Miami, and the closest he got, I think, was like 3,800 with the Titans again. So they really need to increase their pass calling plays here and maybe get away from the running with Henry, because at some point you're not going to have Henry on your team and you're going to have a team that can't play football. So I think we may see some increased passing attempts by this offense again this year. And I like Hopkins to be the main benefactor. And I'd like to see how else they work with Burks and Okonkwo moving forward.
Yeah.
We do have a sit for their defense. Now, you may be wondering why, and that's mostly because the team they're playing, the Saints. The Tennessee Titans usually have a pretty stout rush defense. They've gotten beaten through the air a lot. And so the team they're playing is more of a air attack offense, in my opinion. That's where their weakness may be found. So let's move on to the Saints and break it down, Chris, on who we have going and what we like about this offense this week.
Yeah, when we have Derek Carr as a start, I mean, pretty much like this is unanimously like if you got a Saint, if you drafted a Saint, go ahead and start him. Derek Carr's a start. Jamal Williams is going to get usage there. He's going to be a start. Especially with Kendre Miller being banged up and Alvin Kamara being on suspension. So go ahead and start Jamal Williams. He's going to get the majority of touches in that backfield. Chris Olave, go ahead and start. Michael Thomas is going to be a sit. Again, I want to see it before I believe it. All right. This is going to be purely that. The guy I like here better anyway is Rashid Shaheed. Like we just said, Tennessee has been susceptible to the deep ball. And this guy is literally the deep ball threat. And lightning in a bottle. We've been saying it for months and months and months, and I think this is going to be a showcase of what he can do. Now, I don't think he's going to go off for 150 yards, but he might have 2 or 3 catches, and one of them going to be a 53-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr does sling the ball.
He likes downfield. He likes to pass it downfield.
I know a lot of people have been on Juwan Johnson. He's going to be a sit for me. I think that there's the same thing with Taysom Hill. I'm not really sure how much I love the tight end position here. I think they have good tight ends. I don't know how much I love Juwan Johnson. His touchdown efficiency was really good last year, and even if he does score in this game, like it's going to be good. Like I still would sit him in this game. I just don't think it's a great matchup for him.
Well,
and then
the thing about the tight ends.
Start.
Yeah, the defense I would start too. Here's the thing about the tight ends position in New Orleans. is you need to have Dallas Cowboy type of usage at the tight end here, because you're talking about a team that's got a solid number one option, a Michael Thomas, who should be a number one option when healthy in the past, is there as well as a number two option. Rashid Shaheed as a third deep threat option as well. At some point, it just becomes a numbers game. And why are you going to look to start a tight end that may get 4 targets versus a tight end that's going to get 7 to 8 targets, even if they're on a worse offense? I just think we're talking about fantasy here. We're not talking about, like, Juwan Johnson's a talented tight end. Yeah. We're not saying he's not. We're talking about fantasy numbers here, period. Now, Michael Thomas is an interesting one, too. We talk about Derek Carr like in the deep threat and the deep ball. Well, he also loved Hunter Renfrow out in Las Vegas. And a lot of the Hunter Renfrow slant routes and out routes is a Michael Thomas specialty. So I'm interested to see that rapport, because Thomas has good hands. He can catch the ball. He finds his way open in zone coverages. It's a matter of if he can actually play the man coverage again, because we know Olave can.
Well, the one thing I was going to say, the last thing I'll say with the Saints, and this is one thing I want to watch for this game and the usage of him in this game, is A.T. Perry. I really am I truly do think by end of season, if Michael Thomas struggles early in the season, A.T. Perry can be the number 2 there.
Take it over.
And take it over.
Yeah, we like Shaheed here. Again, we have him as a sleeper, like Chris said, because he's a perfect person in a situation where you need points in a flex position due to injuries and bye weeks. And we have him as a sleeper here because there are some big injuries that we'll be going over at some point. In fact, our next team has an injury too. But he's a flex player that can get you like 3 catches and 75 yards and a touchdown. And
Shaheed's my DFS value play this week.
There you go.
Can we get a logo? DFS value play.
Let's move on to our next matchup. You got the Panthers versus the Falcons. You've got a rookie quarterback versus pretty much rookie quarterback in Desmond Ridder here. But you got the big rookie running back for the Falcons. The Panthers are rolling out Bryce Young. The only person we feel comfortable starting here, however, is Miles Sanders. We're sitting Young, playing Sanders. Thielen's a sit. He's questionable already to begin with. DJ Chark is out. So to be honest with you, if you want to throw a dart out there on Jonathan Mingo, I'm comfortable doing it. It's more of a DFS play, like, similar to Shaheed, just because I don't know what it's going to look like. And are you really starting Mingo over somebody else in you'd have to have a 3 flex, 3 receiver league to be playing people like Mingo in your starting lineup week 1. So to me, he is a sleeper because he may be just the benefactor of most of the targets, just for the sheer fact that everybody else on the receiving core is injured. Hayden Hurst could get a bump up into a quote unquote sleeper if there's a definite out for Adam Thielen. Because somebody else is going to have to catch the ball there. And he is a talented athletic tight end as well. And he's shown up in the past for the teams he's played for. But we are definitely not playing that Carolina defense. As decent as they are, they're not terrible. It's just going to be an ugly game. And if it gets out of hand on the ground with the Falcons, this Panthers defense may not be able to stop them that well.
Yeah. Yeah. I got nothing to say on this one, just because there's the injuries at the 2 wide receiver positions, the rookie quarterback that is going to rely on efficiency. I don't trust anyone here other than Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. That's the only person I'm comfortable slipping in my lineup. Same thing here for the Atlanta Falcons. The only person I'm comfortable slipping in my lineup would be Bijan Robinson. We have Algier as a sleeper, and we're sitting everybody else because to me, it's not that we don't like Drake London. I think he's a really good young receiver. Kyle Pitts is an athletic freak. And this, I have a typo on here, by the way. It says Cincinnati Bengals defense, supposed to be Falcons, but the Falcons defense
should be a start too.
Is boosted.
Start them against Carolina.
We would start the Falcons here. We would still sit Drake London, Matt Collins, Kyle Pitts, because we want to see actually what Desmond Ridder has to offer. Because if he comes out and he throws the ball 30 times, 28, 30, completions, or attempts, well then, like, you don't want to be throwing those guys out there every week. That makes Drake London a flex play. It makes Kyle Pitts a wide receiver too. It makes Matt Collins a droppable candidate, and it just makes Bijan and the running backs there the only people you want to play every week on Atlanta.
He's gonna crush you in his bicep for you saying that.
Who, Matt Collins?
The guy's massive.
The guy's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is truly a prove it to me. Team is. Like I don't trust any receiving weapon on this team until Desmond Ridder shows that he can be throwing the football. And we know what they're going to do in the run game. And so Bijan is going to be a start, even though all the hate that I've had for him all offseason. He's still a starter.
Your hate's only been ADP. It's not been about Bijan Robinson.
It's ADP. Like
it's where people had been drafting him. But that's why we have Tyler Algier as a sleeper here. Both you and I agree is like they're not going to get away without a physical run game and not having him there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both going to get a lot of use.
Yeah. So Algier is a sleeper. He's somebody to keep an eye on. I don't expect a full season of him having like the split that we're seeing in the Green Bay or with the Detroit Lions, but he is somebody that you should have on your bench. If anything happens to Bijan, this guy was a 1,000-yard rusher last year on a terrible offense. So that just tells you enough. Nothing more to say about this matchup. We like Atlanta over Carolina in this one. Obviously, that's why we have Atlanta defense as a start. Moving on here. We got the Jaguars versus the Colts. Another interesting matchup. You got Trevor Lawrence coming back after a fantastic season, trying to build upon that. If you notice, there's a lot of green and not a lot of red on this screenshot of ours here. It's going to be quite different when we show you the Colts. But we're going to start everybody here, and even in flex opportunities for someone like Tank Bigsby. We have the defense as sleepers here too because they're a decent, good defense. They could stop this Colts offense. Obviously, someone like Anthony Richardson could still run for 100 yards. Deion Jackson could do decent on the ground. But at the end of the day, there's going to be some turnovers here. You could guarantee that Anthony Richardson probably throws a pick. There's not much talent on the Colts offense. So my favorite plays here are obviously going to be Etienne, Ridley, and Lawrence. But you could feel comfortable if you were somebody that punted the tight end position and drafted Evan Ingram, playing him this game here too as well. If you're somebody that drafted Tank Bigsby late because you went wide receiver heavy and then grabbed a bunch of low-end running backs there, he's somebody that has flex appeal this week too as well, because if they get up early, he may get some good rushing opportunities too.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you're one of the a Cooper Kupp owner and he was your flex position, or you have another injury that you're dealing with at your flex position, start Tank Bigsby. I think he's going to have a really fantastic week. I think this is going to be a blowout game, and a lot of the starters might not get a ton of usage, and Bigsby is going to come in and kind of show what he can do, and it's going to establish him for the entire season as being a 1B to ETN's 1A. And that's how I truly feel that this offense, this backfield can go. Even though all the offseason has been talked about how ETN is going to be the guy, he's going to rush for 1,800 yards, yada, yada, yada. It's like Bigsby's a dude. He's that dude. Yeah. And so I would say go ahead and start him if you are dealing with some other issues and you need a flex position to start.
Yeah, I like Bigsby a lot. I think he was fantastic if you got to watch him in the preseason. He did have that one fumble on a goal line carry, and then ETN came back in and plunged it in himself the next time they got in the goal line. But again, I think these guys, I think these guys are just going to be back and forth, kind of like your A.J. Dillon and your Aaron Jones, not in terms of the same usage, where Aaron Jones is catching a ton of balls and A.J. Dillon isn't that much. I just think they're going to be splitting in terms of touches, pretty equivalent, which last year in terms of snap percentages for both and carry percentages for Dillon and Jones, it was almost 50-50. So to me, I liked having these two guys by end of season. Bigsby could be one of those guys you're starting your flex every single week.
Yep.
Moving on to a team that I don't see any flexes this week to even think about playing, unless you're a Jonathan Taylor owner and want to take a shot on Deion Jackson. Everybody else is a sit for us here, including the defense, who in the past has been pretty good, but don't forget Bobby Okereke is now a New York Giant, so their leading tackler from last year is not there anymore as well. Tight end's not going to have any value here. Running backs in terms of checkdowns, as you saw, Anthony Richardson's going to tuck and run himself. And that's just going to hurt Michael Pittman. It's going to hurt Josh Downs. It's going to hurt Alec Pierce, everybody there that's a pass catcher. So to me, this is going to be the most – I think a lot of eyeballs are going to be on this game because everybody drafted Anthony Richardson as a top 10 quarterback in fantasy leagues and across multiple platforms, which to me, they were doing it for the upside. But you better grab somebody else and you better be starting that other guy. Like Derek Carr is the perfect example. If you got Richardson, you probably also got someone like Carr or Geno Smith, and you better be playing one of those two guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Richardson might throw 2 picks in this game.
Yeah. And his legs can't save him. So
enough running for 100 yards. Like you're going to Jacksonville's defense is not like a slouch. And so
it's true. It's true. It's going to be a tough game for Richardson opening day.
This is going to be a tough game.
Let's move on. I already have on the screen, as you could see, pushed over to the 49ers-Steelers matchup. This is going to be a fun game to watch. 2 stout defenses, a up-and-coming young offense with Pittsburgh, and a team like the 49ers who's projected to be a Super Bowl contender coming out here with Brock Purdy coming off surgery. So Brock Purdy, we have as a sit. We want to see what he's got. He would have been a start for us late last year, obviously, but we want to see how that arm is going and how much they end up using him here. We have Christian McCaffrey as a start because that's a lock and loaded every single week there. Elijah Mitchell as a sleeper because game script could also change how much usage he gets. But on top of that, he's still being used, and we saw that last year when they were together. He is a nice play to have as a sleeper, especially a nice little DFS play because he finds himself in the end zone and you have spent zero money on him. Deebo Samuel we have as a sit. That's because we have him as one of our bust candidates this year based on ADP, that is. He does have a rapport with Brock Purdy, but so does Brandon Ayuk. He has a better rapport in terms of that. And so it also, I heard a couple people in the past breaking down also defenses that Deebo does better against versus Ayuk does better against. And Ayuk definitely has better opportunities against man coverage. And I think the Steelers, I could look at it, probably plays a little bit more man coverage than they do zone coverages, which will benefit Ayuk a little bit more. And then we have a start on George Kittle, but he's got the Q next to him. So keep an eye out of that because if he doesn't play, you've got to have to reach for somebody quickly because you don't want to miss out on your tight end position and get a 0 and get a goose egg there. So keep an eye on it. He has been dealing with lower body injuries all preseason, so it wouldn't surprise me if he does not get the nod. And even if he does, soft tissue growing injuries are quick and easy to aggravate. He could do it on the first play, so it may even be precautionary to even sit him and go pick up somebody and play him later if you don't already have a backup.
Yeah.
And then Nick Bosa's back, so you got to start this defense. I mean, the guy's a machine.
Yep. Here's
a quick question. George Kittle, do you feel comfortable enough that if he gets the nod to play, starting him for sure in week 1? Or would you rather go on a safer route and grab somebody else and play like a Dulcich or Gerald Everett, one of those tight ends?
No, give me Kittle.
Okay.
If Kittle's healthy and Kittle's playing, I want him with Brock Purdy.
Yep, I agree with you on that. Agree with you on that one. So let's go see what across the matchup and take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Pittsburgh Steelers here had a fantastic preseason. In fact, I think they had the best preseason out of any team in terms of the starters because Kenny Pickett had 5 drives. They scored on all 5 drives. He had 2 touchdowns, just under 200 yards, and his completion percentage was through the roof. I think it was either 13 for 16 or 16 for 19, something pretty darn good there. That doesn't give us a start this week. That Pittsburgh defense is still pretty good, and with Nick Bosa there, I think it's going to make him hurry his passes a little bit more. That's why we have this running game a little bit better as a start in terms of Najee Harris and a sleeper in Jalen Warren because we saw what Warren can do. This is going to be a show-me game for Warren. If he comes in there and he throws up some home run plays for Pittsburgh, I think you'll start to see his increase in usage be quicker than later in this season. And then we've got George Pickens in the defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is very good. They could be stingy, and they could create some turnovers for the 49ers. But to me, the George Pickens play is purely on the opportunity for big play and home run ability. If you're going to find the end zone through the air for the Steelers, it's probably going to be through Pickens just because of his ability to get downfield, make some big acrobatic catches and contested catches, and get the chunk yardage. Where Deontay Johnson, he's had some big 30-yard receptions here and there, but you usually find him in the intermediate ranges and getting more receptions than he is finding himself in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens is my pew, 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 top DFS play. Yeah, he's going to be in.
What was that?
I've lost my voice this week, so all my high notes are just really jacked up. So
I'm recording that, and I'm using that as my keyboard tune. So every time I press the keyboard, instead of a click, it's going to go pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. You're watching Star Wars here?
Well, yeah, if I squeak, I didn't want to squeak on camera, all right? So, I'll make beeps.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, Pickens is going to be the guy that I think has the best shot to score from this receiving core. And here's what I'll say about Pickett is that I actually think that Kenny Pickett might have a really good game this game. He's still going to be a sit because they're going matchup based. This is the smart play to do is sit him against the San Francisco 49ers. However, I could see this is an East Coast game.
I'd put him into a sleeper contention. We could bump him up to our sleeper range because I think he could be there. Because to me, people actually drafted Kenny Pickett, but they didn't draft him as their number one. They drafted him as a number two. Or in 2 quarterback leagues, they drafted him as their second quarterback to go out there because they took somebody up high and then got him later on. And he's worthy of that. I think he could give you enough points to make you happy on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, the game's in Pittsburgh, and so they still City has a home field advantage there. They got the time advantage against West Coast teams coming east, although it is the first week of the season, so I'm not really worried about that kind of time zone.
Anything goes up. Yeah, I mean, look at Thursday night. Anything can happen.
Right.
Let's just hope there's more balls caught in this game than there were Thursday.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a short on it this week.
Yeah,
drop Sky Moore.
Yeah, drop him like you drop balls.
Yeah,
I don't care. People can argue the fact that they were thrown behind him, above him, here and there. I don't care what you're saying.
Him in the hands.
Yeah, just catch the ball. Let's move on to the team that's going to have a hard time doing very much because it looks wildly different than it was last year, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. Newly acquired and starting quarterback Joshua Dobbs is going to be out there leading this offense, and I don't know how comfortable I feel about that. So he is a definite sit for me. It's a shame because Colt McCoy, I think, was dealing with injuries, and that's probably the reason why they waived him. But Colt McCoy would not have been a start for me, but I liked the pass catchers a little bit more with Colt McCoy. I don't know what we're getting at it with Josh Dobbs. That's why James Conner and Hollywood Brown are the only 2 starts for us this week here. Rondell Moore, Michael Wilson, who people are talking highly about as possibly being the number 2 option on this team. That's great and all, but a number 2 option on a team that can't move the ball downfield very well or can't get the ball to their receivers is going to be interesting. So that's why we have him, the tight ends, and the defense as a sit against these Washington Commanders. James Conner is going to be a tough one because a lot of people drafted him highly. You're going to like him rest of the season, but this may be one of his toughest matchups this season.
I mean, if the weather's kind of sloppy, which I think it's supposed to be, I like him.
Yeah, it's just going to be a gritty, tough in the trenches type of matchup, and he's could do it. He's got the body built for it. He's got the veteran in him that can handle that type of play.
Well, it makes me think that because Dobbs was named the starter, he hasn't been there the entire camp. I can't imagine they're going to open up the entire playbook. So it makes me like Connor more, just based on the fact that he could probably get the ball 30 times this game.
Trust me, I'm a Connor truther here. I've had him on my team for years now and wanted him on my team again. You got him this year, but I'm a truther for Connor. I think he's great. I think he's elusive. He's versatile. He could catch passes out the backfield. I think Dobbs will rely on that too. It's just a matter of how well that offensive line, who's supposed to be a little bit better, can hold up for Dobbs, and if they're in opportunities where they're not down by a lot of points and don't have to be scripted out of the run game early. But Hollywood Brown is good.
Passes and dub passes.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood Brown too is one I really like because he's going to get himself open.
Yep. So he's questionable with the hamstring injury. So
keep an eye on that.
keep an eye on if he plays. Like if he does play, I still like him because based on the weather conditions, that could change. Because this hurricane that's coming up, they might get some nasty weather up the coast.
Yeah.
But we'll keep an eye on the weather and see what it's like. But if the weather is good enough to be a passing game, like he's the only option there. I mean, Rondell Moore, I'm not going to say is going to get 6 to 8 targets.
No.
So Brown's going to be the only guy.
Yeah, to me, that's going to be the same sentiment the entire season. There's only two people that we're going to put us into the start category, and unless Hollywood Brown fizzles out, he's going to be a start for us, and James Conner will be a start for us. So let's talk about who's got on the other side of the ball here with the Washington Commanders. Under new ownership, there's a new breath of life to this team here, and you got a new starting quarterback again, and that's Sam Howell. I think Ron Rivera likes him a lot. The players like him. He looked pretty decent during the preseason. He had a decent game. Also at the end of the season, we have him as a sleeper option because he's also playing the Cardinals here. But we're not starting him over anybody else. Like if you got him on your team, you took him as a second quarterback most likely. And if you took a shot at him as your first one, that's ballsy. But they're going to lean on Brian Robinson here in the run game against the Cardinals. We don't like Antonio Gibson here as a starter because we just are unsure. This could be the year of Brian Robinson, and we really like him. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, both are going to be playing. No injury designation for Terry McLaurin, so that's good. So that's going to help Sam Howell out here a lot, and Sam Howell has a good rapport with the two of them. And then we have a sleeper in Logan Thomas because this team is also terrible against tight ends, and if Logan Thomas can stay on the field, he could get some good opportunities as well. And if you have the Commanders in your lineup, you are hitting a home run this week because you just got lucky for week 1. So, anything else to say about Washington before we move on to the next matchup?
No. Just Jahan Dotson is going to be my start for this game.
Yeah, I like him. I like him the most this game for sure. Let's move on to the Raiders and Broncos. This divisional matchup is always tough and always difficult and always a lot of fun to watch. Again, we have two quarterbacks that are questionable, not in terms of health, but just in terms of how they're going to play. You got Garoppolo and Russell Wilson against each other. We don't like Garoppolo this week. We got to see how he comes out and plays and how he gels with this offense here. That's why I think they're going to lean on Josh Jacobs. Chris and I have him as a start. We have Devontae Adams as a start as well because, let's be honest, you can't sit Devontae Adams. He's scored touchdowns with anybody throwing to him. But the other receivers, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, and the tight ends, even the rookie tight end, Michael Mayer, none of them I feel like are worthy of a start. And this defense is also not going to be a start because I believe Chandler Jones is not going to play week 1, so that hurts that defense. You still got a good pass rush there for sure, but I still think at the end of the day, this is not a defense you want to own.
This is a defense you would love to start if this was last year's Denver Broncos, but I don't think it's going to be last year's Denver Broncos. I could be wrong, but I think Sean Payton has kind of come in and done like a whole culture shift there. So moving on to the Broncos, everyone's going to be a sit for us except for Samaje Perine and Cortland Sutton. So I think both those guys are going to be sleepers. Javonte Williams, I just want to see what he has, what the usage is going to be like. He might get, I don't see him getting 15 plus touches. I see him getting around like the 10 to 15 range. Samaje Perine, I think, is going to shoulder the work for the first couple of weeks before they kind of work Javonte Williams back in. And then this defense, I would go ahead and start as well.
Yeah, I like the Sutton sleeper pick here purely because you have some big receivers and wide receiver ones for other offenses that are injured, to include Jerry Jeudy being an iffy play here. And so if he doesn't play, I like the option of throwing Cortland Sutton in as a flex play. If you have Christian Watson on your team who's already out, Adam Thielen who's out, any of those guys that are out that you were planning on playing your wide receiver 2 slot or something like that, you could take a shot on Sutton and his rapport with Russell Wilson alone. I like it much better than Marvin Mims Jr. Just because Sutton's had 2 seasons with Russell Wilson. I think he could show up if he's going to in the game. It's going to be a game without Jerry Jeudy in week 1. So that would be one to watch out for. If you have a receiver that's out, take a look to see if Sutton's out on the waiver wires for you and go grab him, and you can plug him in comfortably knowing that he's going to get enough usage that's going to give you good output in the flex.
Yeah.
Next matchup we have here are the Dolphins-Chargers. Dolphins coming in here, a great season last year with some injuries to Tua in terms of concussions throughout the season. They're hoping to come out with a bang against the LA Chargers in what is the highest scoring total projection from Vegas here. So to me, we're starting Tua, we're starting Mostert because the Chargers run defense was absolutely horrific last year. I think you get Bosa back and you get some other pieces in there that may help, but they were still terrible last year. We're not going to start A-Chain coming off injury. I know Wilson's not there, but he's going to probably have some opportunities, but he may be on a pitch count, a snap count. And don't forget, he was hurt. His shoulder was hurt. He could re-injure something there. It's not worth the flex risk. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are must starts for you here as well. And we're not playing a tight end or the Miami defense because of how loaded this Chargers offense is.
Yeah, and then on the other side, I think that it's, again, going to be start your studs, right? So, Herbert, Eckler, Allen, Mike Williams, go ahead and start those guys. And everyone else is going to be a sit for us this game, especially because, like I said earlier on, is that this is probably going to be the highest scoring game of the weekend. So I don't want a defense in either one of those just because I think it's going to be just shred fest on either side. And they're going to just duke it out. The wide receiver 3 position, I think we're just going to kind of wait and see what happens with Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston, who's going to kind of get usage there. And Gerald Everett could be a sleeper in this. I couldn't get there myself to kind of elevate him to that level.
Yeah, it was tough for me too.
Yeah, so I kept him as a sit, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did fairly well. Like, I don't think he's going to pop into a top 12 tight end finish, but I think he could be around the bottom end there and finishes like a 13, 14 finish. And if he gets in for a score, it can elevate him into that tight end 1 position. But
again, just because we don't have a sleeper doesn't mean if you are the Mark Andrews owner, George Kittle owner, and those guys end up not playing, that he's not an option to go grab. I think he could give you something there.
Yeah, you want a piece of big games, right? So if this game is going to go and hit the over and it's going to be a high-scoring game of the weekend and you do have a tight end, especially a top-end tight end that's not playing or becomes injured and is listed as out, especially in the early games, which both Kittle and Andrews are in. If those guys get ruled out, you can bench them and then play, go and pick up Everett if he's available and play him.
Yep.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. Let's move on to the next matchup with the Eagles versus the Patriots. This is going to be a battle of the defenses here.
Start everyone versus don't start anyone.
Yeah, pretty much. The only people we're saying not to start on the Eagles are the running backs. We just don't know how they're going to deploy them. And the depth chart, they're all lumped into one category. So let's see what they do this week. And honestly, it could be one of those old Bill Belichick situations where week to week may be different. And I don't feel comfortable starting a running back there, except maybe DeAndre Swift because of his abilities, if we don't know what the usage is going to be. But you're starting Hurts, you're starting Brown, you're starting Smith for sure. Goddard is kind of a sleeper pick to me, but we have him as a sit just because it depends on how this game ends up going, how many passes they end up doing, or how much Jalen Hurts runs the ball or they use the ground game. Philadelphia Eagles defense. That's
where I just think it's going to go. I think it's going to go to a ground game because I think that the Eagles defense is going to absolutely dominate the Patriots offense.
Yeah. Eagles defense, we have to start just exactly as Chris said, because on the Patriots side of the ball, as we switch over to them, we are not starting anybody but Ramondre Stevenson. And if Ramondre Stevenson is not starting this week because he's got questionable designation to him, Zeke Elliott has some sleeper play there. That's a guy, it may be a difficult play, even though the Eagles weren't that great against the rush. They do have 2 great ex-Georgia defensive roadblocks that they have in the front line there. It could be a different run defense than we saw last year. So he's a sleeper opportunity if Ramondre doesn't play, but we are starting Ramondre anyway if he is playing because Ramondre can catch the ball at the backfield. He could be fantastic. And then we're not going to get any of these pass catchers. We're going to trust in the fact that Mike Gesicki as our sleeper pick could be somebody that could benefit from Mac Jones dumping the ball over the middle, down low in mismatch situations because he is a good receiving tight end.
And then, moving on to the next game, we got the Packers and Bears. So, we have the Packers with Jordan Love, where he's going to be a sit. Although he's kind of borderline sleeper for me because I do think that he could have a potentially good game. The only problem is that the top two wide receivers, one's been ruled out already with Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs is listed as questionable. So that's why we have to start as Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Go ahead and start those two guys up. I think they're going to rely on the run game. And then sleeper guy that I do think for this game is Jaden Reed. Because of the injuries that they do have at the wide receiver position, I think he could step in and really have a great performance in week one to establish himself as the number 3 receiver on this team, working his way towards overtaking one of the other guys.
Yeah, and I like Luke Musgrave as my sleeper option here too as well. Again, this is one that you could probably, if Everett and some of these other guys on the waiver are gone and Andrews and Kittle don't play, you need somebody, look for Musgrave possibly, because he did play pretty much every single snap with Jordan Love in the preseason. He is the starting tight end there. He is tight end number 1. He is a good route runner and a good blocker, so he's earned himself that rapport. So I think he could be a go-to guy for Jordan Love, especially if Romeo Doubs sits and does not play this week.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the football, it's Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, and DJ Moore as our starts. I think Roschon Johnson, I wouldn't put him as a sleeper this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got some usage, but I still don't like him this week. Same thing with Mooney and Claypool. They're all going to be sits for me. And then Cole Kmet is going to be a sleeper. Depending on what the kind of the passing game looks like, I think DJ Moore is going to open the things up for Cole Kmet, and he is going to be a guy that you definitely could get, you got for at value in the draft, and it's going to pay off.
Yeah, I like this. This is going to be a fun game to watch as well, I think.
It should be.
2 young quarterbacks and good teams overall. So let's move on to our next matchup.
I do wonder if the Packers do beat the Bears, that Jordan Love is going to come out and call him his daddy. Just pick up right where Aaron Rodgers left off. Sorry, Chicago.
Hey, I don't know. I think that's an Aaron Rodgers thing. LA Rams versus Seattle Seahawks.
Just to let you know, he did call it Jet Life Stadium.
Yeah. Well, enough said.
We
don't need to say anything. Anyway, LA Rams, this is a tough offense here to play anybody, especially with Cooper Kupp that's injured. So we don't like Matt Stafford without Kupp. We do like Cam Akers without Kupp because they're going to have to lean on somebody. So why not lean on the run game against the Seahawks, who were not that great against the run last year? Van Jefferson is a start. It's a pseudo start because he is going to be the number 1 option there. However, we do have Puka Nacua as a sleeper pick here because he has shown some good athleticism and great rapport this preseason, and Matt Stafford may be able to connect some big plays with him. And Tyler Higbee, I think, is probably going to be the biggest benefactor of there being no Cooper Kupp, just because there is already a connection between Matt Stafford and Tyler Higbee. We are not playing it says New England Patriots. Again, another typo. That's on me. We need to get a graphic guy. We need to hire a new graphic guy. Fire the graphic guy. This defense here with the Rams is lost so many big key starters in the past 2 years that I just don't think that they're the caliber that they were before when they entered to the Super Bowl. So,
it's just, again, they're playing on the other side too.
Yeah, so that too. And that's swing. We might as well just swing over to them now. Seattle Seahawks.
Start them. You got them. Start them. Gino, start. If Kenneth Walker goes, start him. If Kenneth Walker doesn't go, it makes me love Zach Charbonnet even more. But we're still starting him. We're still starting him. DK, start him. Lockett, start him. Now, I know JSN has been cleared. They're saying he is playing week 1. I'm going to sit JSN right for week 1. Chances are you drafted him not to be your number 2. So if you have a number 2 option there, go ahead and play him this week.
Unless you're listening, Nico, and you drafted him in the 6th round.
No, Nico, start your studs.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not saying start him, but he drafted him up in the 6th round. Yeah. Listen, this offense, you might as well, Chris. Let's just get a shirt printed that just says start him, because there's going to be a lot of times, anytime they play the Rams or the Cardinals this season, 3 more times you're just going to be holding up that shirt that just says start him.
We can get another graphic that goes up here and just goes to start him.
Again, we got to fire the current graphic guy.
Yeah.
and hire a
Fire
new
the
one.
graphic guy. Hey, if you guys are graphic guys or know anyone good, send them our way, please.
Yeah. If you want a little work, here we go.
Build the brand.
No, we just love the Seahawks in this matchup. There's no doubt about it. I think everybody else knows that.
Start
Enough
this
said.
defense.
Yeah, enough said there. Start that defense for sure. There's going to be some turnovers. Moving on to the Cowboys versus the Giants. This is going to be a rough and tough, my favorite matchup. To be honest with you, a lot of people out there are calling for an upset by the Giants. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But that being said, Dak Prescott's got to prove to me he can keep the ball out of the other team's hands. Tony Pollard is a start for us here, as he will be for everybody else. He's probably your number one running back. Deuce Vaughn, I know he's been picked up in a lot of leagues. We have him as a sit. We want to see what the usage is going to be. Is it going to be Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard usage? Or is Tony Pollard going to look like Zeke Elliott when he first came into the league and just get everything? We don't know yet. So we are starting CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks because those tandem are going to be pretty good this year. Jake Ferguson's a sleeper because if he has a shred of Dalton Schultz in him, he's going to get targets from Dak Prescott. Now, I know it was a Kellen Moore thing, but even when Kellen Moore wasn't there, the Cowboys threw their tight ends. And this Cowboys defense is a start because they are takeaway artists and they are sack artists with Micah Parsons and Diggs. So I like the opportunity for them to create turnovers here.
Yeah, in the last year in the two games that they played against the Giants, they did very, very well. So I would go ahead and start them against, especially week 1 Sunday night matchup.
I will say Daniel Jones did not turn the ball over that much last year. So in terms of the interceptions, they may not be there, but this defense they're ball hawks. They find ways to get the ball loose. So speaking of the Giants, again, this is another quarterback we are not going to be starting here, and that's Daniel Jones. He has played decent against the Cowboys here and there, but he needs to use his legs to do that here. We're playing Saquon because you're starting him every week no matter what. Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, 2 receivers we are not playing. Hodgins is the guy who was the little late hero in the season for the Giants on the playoff run. He's a sleeper for us because it looks like Wan'Dale Robinson is out. Darren Waller is a start for us. However, he's questionable with a hamstring now. And so to me, keep an eye on that because then I really like Hodgins. Yeah, I know.
You don't say.
But I will say we don't have him listed on here and that there's Jalen Hyatt. If there's no Darren Waller, I think I'm going to throw it out there. I would dart throw on Jalen Hyatt if myself in DFS because he's the type of guy who's going to have a couple catches, ton of yards, and a touchdown, and they're going to have to try and spread the field to somebody. Why not just get the rook out there? So not to say I'm not starting him in a redraft league or in a regular league, but I would like to play him. I would like to go in the over on his prop if Waller definitely does not play. And I'm not starting this Giants defense, even though I think they're really good under Wink Martindale, and they could cause some turnovers here. It also could go the other direction because they're young on the corners. It's going to be interesting to see. I have hope for this Giants defense. They could be one of these guys that you have in your lineup towards the end of the season because Martindale does some great things with his defenses.
Yep. And then, we got the last game of the week, the Monday night game. The Bills.
Yep. Bills, Jets.
Jets.
So let's start with the Bills here.
Starting with the Bills, we got Josh Allen as a start, James Cook as a start, Damian Harris as a sleeper here, Stephon Diggs as a start. Go ahead and sit Gabe Davis. And then both Knox and Kincaid are going to be sleepers for me. I know a lot of people were high on Kincaid, and I still think Knox is in front of him on the depth chart. He's probably going to outsnap him there. So Knox can be used. I just think that this defense is really good, especially in coverage on tight ends. Though I do think that this defense is most susceptible to a number 3 receiver. So Kincaid, I could see as being the guy that benefits from this.
Well, it could also be a situation on a 2 tight end set that all of a sudden Knox and Kincaid are out there running a route with 2 receivers, and then all of a sudden you've got Knox gets the off man and gets the mismatch and benefits from that because maybe they go to the pass catching Kincaid a little bit more. It's going to be this is going to be a fun game to watch too.
This is going to be a fun game. And then on the other side with the Jets, we have Aaron Rodgers is go ahead and start him. We have Breece Hall is going to be a sit. Dalvin Cook's going to be a start. Garrett Wilson's going to be a start. My sleeper here would be Tyler Conklin at the tight end position. And then I'm going to go ahead and start this defense here. And so let me explain the Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. I know the decision there to be Breece as a sit is I think Breece, Dalvin, the reason they signed Dalvin, and I know both of them are coming off of injuries. Dalvin's a cleanup on his shoulder. He's good to go. And he's going to carry a lot of early down work. Breece, even though he's good to go, he's only been back in camp for about 2 weeks. And coming off the major knee injury, I don't think he's ready to take a full workload yet. And the Jets are smart enough that they're not just going to throw him in there, especially with Aaron Rodgers needing to pass. He wants a savvy veteran there too, protecting for him. So I think Dalvin Cook is going to have this game, and I love the brother matchup week 1.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a little bit of a brother script going on here.
I do like that friendly competition between the brothers at running back, and I think Dalvin's going to end up having the better game. I wouldn't be surprised if Dalvin ran for 100 yards and a touchdown. Yeah,
and the only other person on here, we don't have him as a unanimous sleeper between the two of us, but I do like Mecole Hardman. There's going to be somebody on this passing offense as a number 2 receiver that's going to link up with Aaron Rodgers. I know he's got a rapport with Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb already, but Hardman he showed it when he was in Kansas City. The guy is athletic as heck, and I think he's going to have opportunities out the backfield on swing passes, screen passes, and also he's going to find some outlets just because of athleticism in a mismatch out of the slot that it could give him some good rapport with Aaron Rodgers early on. I have him as a sleeper, but again, it wasn't enough that I'd say I'd start him in a flex. That's why I took it off. So,
yeah.
Well, that being said, that's the end of all the matchups this week. We went through all Sunday and Monday matchup. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell us your thoughts on the starts and sits if you're a little bit higher on somebody than we are. We're going to try and be a little bit stingy. It is week 1, so you got to throw a lot of these defensive matchups out the window because we just don't know yet. And some of these teams, they're all new offenses, and we can't wait to see how they gel, but we're not sure. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and don't forget to hit the little bell for notifications so you get all the drops.
Yeah, and drop comments. I know we're going to be posting this. It's coming out Saturday morning. I know you guys are getting ready for those Sunday games. Go ahead and reach out to us. Send in comments. I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. Usually
we'll give us our honest opinion. We'll give you your honest opinion.
We're pretty open and pretty quick to answer. So if you do have some questions on lineup adjustments, let us know.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and don't forget to tune in next week and enjoy week 1. Good luck in your fantasy weekend.